All right, well, good afternoon. We appreciate everybody coming here this afternoon for an update regarding our missing persons case with Naja Farrell. It's very important that we take an opportunity as an agency to understand the value of coming to the media, coming to the public, and helping this family in their time of need. There are a lot of different components to a missing person investigation, and we want to be sensitive to every one of those components as we provide information not only to the public but through the family as well. So I want to start off by kind of giving a summarization of what information we have, how this information actually came to the Avon Police Department, and after that time we'll have Naja's mother, Paula, speak to you for a few moments, and then at that point we'll talk a little bit more about where our investigation is now, where we're moving towards, and then we'll open up for opportunities for conversations and questions with the news media. So Naja was last seen on the early morning hours of March the 15th. The information that we received on this investigation was reported to us the following Monday. Our understanding was that the Indiana Department of Child Services had received notification that Naja had not picked up her children later in the day on the Friday, the 15th. That initial report was provided to the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department, who started the initial phase of this investigation. That agency then contacted Avon Police Department upon learning that Naja was actually last seen here in Avon at her residence. And so on Monday morning, our agency received that information and began moving forward with the investigative process here at the local level. From what we understand, that morning, Naja was expected to be at her job located at Panera Bread off West 86th Street and I-465. Our understanding was that she was anticipated to be there that morning for what was a third day of her new employment orientation at that location. Employees there at Panera also indicated that she never arrived at that time for her third day of employment. So during this time, there have been a lot of questions and a lot of conversation about what has taken place with the investigation. We receive information from the public. We also have people that ask us questions, offering their assistance about conducting searches and working as a community to help find Naja and bring her back to her family. And so I kind of want to walk through just what our investigators have been doing now with this case since we've had that. Understanding that the investigative process does move slowly at times, understanding that there's a lot of complexities and hardships and communication. There are some delays that frustrate even ourselves and our investigators in trying to get more information to get this case resolved and to find Naja and bring her home. So as a department, our investigators have been working around the clock since this has taken place. To date, we've served and filed for over 30 search warrants. These search warrants are relevant to things such as electronic records. They can include legal permissions to enter vehicle, enter the residence, and to do those searches. Beyond that, one of the searches that we actually conducted was a search of her residence here in Avon. We were assisted by the Indiana State Police crime scene investigators that helped us in the initial phases of conducting the search warrants on her residence in the effort to, again, gather information, provide evidence on our case. Obviously, something that happens in these cases, you're going to see investigators conducting interviews. Our detectives have conducted approximately 40 interviews with individuals that live either in the area where she was last seen, her actual residence, her neighbors, friends, some of the family you see behind me here today, and trying to understand the big picture, and that's our goal. Those interviews have been conducted morning, afternoon, evening, and night. Some of those have happened early on. Some of those have happened as recently as earlier this morning on today's date. Part of our investigation, as many of you have already reported, is that the vehicle that Naja was found in, that was missing along with her, was located in the area of 86th Street and Michigan Road. That vehicle was located by an officer with Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department, and that vehicle was actually sealed, transported to the Avon Police Department, where our investigators have since conducted a thorough search of the vehicle, along with being assisted by crime scene investigators with the Hendricks County Sheriff's Department, assisted us in that component of the investigation. When we pay attention to knowing what we do know about Naja, and we pay attention to where she was last seen and where this vehicle was at, that opens up another opportunity for information for our investigators to explore. With that being said, we have made communication, search warrants, actually retrieved some video from about 12 different locations that we were hoping will provide information that will lead us in the right direction about how the vehicle arrived at where it was located at by IMPD, as well as finding out more information about her activities leading up to her disappearance. There has been some concern and question. I want to try to clarify that very quickly about the search process. We do have a lot of messages that come to us from the general public. Some of those messages have come through direct messaging through our Facebook or our Twitter and Instagram pages, as well as a couple of pieces of information that have come through Crime Stoppers of Central Indiana. And we want to just encourage the public to be patient and understand the investigative process. One thing that is to our advantage at this moment as we stand here today is that we have wooded areas that we can search with great efficiency, and we do so by employing the assistance of the Indiana State Police Aviation Team. The aviation team is very familiar with our investigators from cases that we've had in the past. If you've had an opportunity to see the location of her residence, you'll notice that there are some densely wooded lots to the east of that location, as well as the CSX rail yard immediately north of that facility in the general area where she was last seen. For us, it's important to be responsible about how we conduct those searches. Having a time in Indiana where the vegetation is not fully developed in our wooded lots allows our aviation teams to search a greater area with much efficiency to be able to see straight to the ground. The process being, if we were to put together a massive search group and search through these areas, those investigators would have a difficult time to differentiate what they're seeing as a byproduct of a search team versus information that might lead them to focus our investigation on any evidence that may have been found or discovered in that section. So as we stand here today, I can tell you that we have been able to get some search and rescue dogs involved with this investigation. Detectives are out right now with those dogs searching some of the locations that have been reported, both through the local media as well as through our social media, in an effort to guide us in our investigation in one direction or another. Late last week, I should say, we received information that some property belonging to Naja had actually been located on I-65 in the area of Lafayette Road. While I'm not going to go into the details of what those items were, I will explain to you that what had happened is there was a construction zone in that area, and another member of the Indiana State Police was located providing security for the construction team on the highway when a construction worker had brought to that trooper some of these items that they had found. That led that trooper to contact the Avon Police Department and notify us that they had that property. And as we speak today, those items have been transported to the Indiana State Police Crime Lab for further analysis and examination by their investigative forensics team. Lastly, the most recent update that we have had was the location of her vehicle. Again, this vehicle was located in the southeast corner of Michigan Road and West 86th Street. This vehicle was located approximately 2.5 miles east of where Naja was expected to be on the morning of her disappearance. Investigators have also been focusing their efforts into that particular area to try to find anybody that may have seen something, that may have seen her vehicle, that may have seen her talking to anybody, socializing with anybody in that area. And so some of our efforts are focused in that area right now at that location. It's very important to our agency that we have good and strong communication. We've talked at length with Naja's family about the value of good communication between the investigators and the media and the family. And so I appreciate everybody adopting a sense of understanding and patience with us, because I can assure you there's nobody more frustrated with not having answers than the family that's here in front of us today in our police department. With that being said, we do remain in constant communication with the family. Naja's mother, Paula, is here and would like to state a few words in support of what we're trying to do. And she can also, if you would, Paula, just kind of maybe give them some understanding of the photographs that we see here so they have an understanding of when those photographs were taken, if you would. Okay? Sure. Thank you, Paula.
These photographs were taken during Easter, maybe about maybe 3 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago, I'm not sure. And this was in the backyard of my home there, and they had dressed alike, and Katie was being a little bit, wanted to be a picture hog. And then I said, let's take a picture with the boys, you know, here in my parlor with their Nana. And that's what they call me, their Nana. And so we took a picture, I think what may have been Naja's phone or my phone, I can't even remember. But it was such a wonderful picture, I said, I'm going to make that a family photo and put it up. I'm thanking God that He gives me the strength to go through this, because any mother would do anything when their child is born, anything, and I mean anything, for their children. And I think that Naja would do the same for me. So I gained the strength from God, my family, my spiritual family, to be here today to talk to you about that, because I love my child, and I tried to teach her to love others the same way. And I think she was a giving young lady, and we were like best friends. And she would tell me sometimes and tease me and say, Mom, you're my best friend. Darn, my mother, my best friend. I said, that's okay. That's a good thing. But I want to thank the community for just being here for us. The Avon Police Department has just been phenomenal, what they do. And I talked with Detective Nugent, and he assured me that he will do this case as though it was his own family member, and that set me at peace with that. And I'm so thankful and grateful for that. But I just urge anybody, if you have any information, if you hear anything, please call that number for Crime Stoppers. Help us. We're in a concerted effort to find my child and bring her home, and I believe that. So we have to stand on that and believe it. And I'm just, my heart, I can't even tell you. I would want any of the mother to ever have to deal with anything like this, any other family, really, because I miss her. And she should be here, and her boys, they have never been without their mother. And I know that. So I just want to say, join together and do whatever it is that you can to help us, because we're all one family. We're the human race. So I just thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Goes without saying how powerful and how much of an impact something like this happens, not only on the community, to the family as well. And so the question is, where do you go from here? Our lead investigators on this case are not even in the room today, because that's where they're at. They're working right now with teams, developing information and locating people that can help us bring Naja home. So as we move forward, just a few things we want to just encourage the public. And if you're at home, if you're watching this online, our request of you is to simply spend a little bit of time to listen to what we're asking you to do, because we're convinced, this family is convinced, this community is convinced also, somebody knows something. So we are pleading to the public that if you are that somebody who thinks they may know something, you do not have to have an absolute understanding of the information that you have. You don't have to be 100% accurate on what your thoughts or assumptions can be. That is the responsibility of law enforcement and our detectives, who again have been working around the clock to bring this information in and to help bring Naja home. So we ask you to please understand that while we have given you updates about property that's been located, while we've provided updates that her vehicle has been located as well, we are still in desperate need of information to further this investigation. If you happen to have been in the area of Michigan and 86th Street and noticed her vehicle, it was a black Nissan Altima, a 2018 model, located on the southeast corner when our partners at IMPD had located that vehicle, we need you to come forward and tell us what you saw. It may be small, it may appear to be insignificant, but I assure you that that is not insignificant to this family, to this agency, and to our community. and we ask for your help desperately. If you were in the area of Interstate 65 and Lafayette Road, and you had observed anything odd or suspicious in that area, observed anyone throwing items out of a vehicle, observed anyone walking in that area at the time that those items were located on Thursday last week, to please contact us and let us know what you may have seen. Something as small as a general description allows our investigators to focus their efforts on the video files that they may have obtained from other locations, and can really guide our investigators to doing the right thing. Anybody that may have had communication with Naja, she may have made a statement that alarmed you. She may have made a comment that seemed innocent at the time, but as you sit here today and you see this family's hurt and you hear our words of need for this investigation, just understanding those words might have a different meaning today than when they did the last time you spoke with her. And we ask that you seriously take the time to evaluate the value of that and call us at Crime Stoppers. We're promoting all of our information to come through Crime Stoppers of Central Indiana. Their number is 317-262-TIPS. You can absolutely remain 100% anonymous through their system, and the entire time Crime Stoppers has been in this area of Indiana, they have never given up the identity of one single tipster. So we have complete and total faith in Crime Stoppers that whatever information you have, you do remain anonymous, and that can advance our investigation and support us in bringing Naja back home. The family has been working very closely with the foster care program coordinator with an organization referred to as the Seeds of Life. This organization was the foster company that helped to facilitate 3 of the children that stayed with Naja at her residence prior to her disappearance. They are putting up a $2,500 reward for information leading to the process of locating Naja and bringing her back home as well. A lot of theories have come into play. We're not ruling a single theory out. There is no denying that as time goes by and in the absence of information of telling us where Naja is located at, that we cannot have an opportunity to eliminate any possibilities. As we sit here today, it could very well be simply a medical emergency that happened and we just need to find her. There may be other circumstances that we're not aware of, whether in her social life or private life, and that information becomes very important to our investigators. So as we move forward, I just caution everybody from locking into a particular theory and understanding that we want all information that could lead us to any conclusion and resolution to bringing Naja home. And so for that, we ask for your patience and understanding. In the course of our investigation, we did speak with a lot of individuals, as I talked to you earlier about in the interviews that we had conducted, and some of those included staff members at Avon School Corporation. I did receive communication from their communications department today offering their support for the family in any way. We did interview teachers and guidance counselors and administrators in our process of investigation, in the process of asking them, did you see anything from the education standpoint, anything that might have come up in conversation? Again, as we've talked about earlier, perhaps a more innocent circumstance then that may mean more to us now that we know that she's missing. That's obviously something that we have explored, and the school corporation continues to support us and the family in any way that they possibly can. Again, we've talked about it before, I'll say it again. Somebody knows something. We are not going to stop looking for Naja. We will never stop. Anybody that has information, we are asking you again to call Crime Stoppers and let us know what information you have, because we will not stop. We will not stop tonight. We will not stop next week. We will not stop this year. We will never stop until we can find Naja and bring her home to her family. As the search continues today, we will continue to provide updates to the media as we move forward. Please understand any updates that we get will go through the family first, and we ask that you respect their privacy at this time, and that all communication with the media and the public in general would please come through the Avon Police Department, so that way we can make sure we're responsible with information and control the tempo, if you would, of what information comes out, so we can use that to our advantage to further our investigation and not restrict that as such. Again, we just ask that you or anybody that has information to have the courage to make that call, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have as we sit here now. Yes, ma'am.
Detective, you talked about the importance of communication in a case like this, and it is kind of odd that with how long she's been missing, that this is the first time we're getting the line of communication and for the Avon Police Department to address the public. So can you explain why there's been such a lag since she's been gone to us hearing something from you guys?
So our agency made notifications through various of outlets, including the local news stations and our social media, about the fact that she was reported missing. There is an investigative process before it even hits a social media platform, okay? As that information comes in, we have a responsibility to vet that information before we release that, and our investigators that are working behind this very wall behind us right now, that we don't release information that can compromise any one facet of that investigation. We had absolutely no delays upon being notified and making contact with the residents that lived in her location, tracking down videos that might be tied to telling us where she was at. And beyond that, the investigative process with search warrants takes us quite some time to get to a possibility of uncovering evidence that can help us. We felt it was appropriate to communicate with the family and send our notifications by press release to news organizations and the use of social media. Social media has changed the way we operate as much as it changes our society and the news media in general. And so we were able to send that out immediately and get that information out. The investigative process does take time. So when you discussed about there being a delay, for us, we don't want to have, occupy our resources talking about something that we have very little information on. So we're trying to be responsible for that. Transparency is at the utmost importance for us as an agency to understand that the community supports us, that we support our community, and with this family here today. And so it's a part of balancing that between the responsibilities of the investigation and communicating with our families that might rise to what you are observing to be somewhat of a delay in getting that information out to you.
And it seems with the evidence you guys have talked about so far, the items that were found near the interstate in her car, it's still not clear if you guys think Naja left on her own or if someone took her. So can you guys shed some light on what you think happened so far, or maybe give a few details as to what people should be even paying attention to?
Well, for us, there's a lot of components to your question that I can't share just for the integrity of the investigation, but I can tell you that when we speak with individuals that last saw her, we have consistently established that she was last seen in the early morning hours of the 15th. That information comes from a multitude of information pieces that, when put together, tell us that. There's a concept that we truly believe in, the theory of locked in and locked out. If we lock ourselves into one theory, we're locking ourselves out of other theories of what may have happened. So I don't feel comfortable sharing any of those possibilities because we want to make sure that we follow the evidence and let the evidence take us and tell that story. We're not going to lock into a theory that we believe something happened in the absence of information to suggest so.
For her personal items that were found and the car that was found, can you give us a timetable that people should be thinking about so that if they were in either of those areas, we'll know possibly what days or day or time?
Yes, sir. So just this past Thursday through Saturday would be the time frame that we're looking at. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday would be the time frame that the property was located on the interstate and the vehicle itself was located on the southeast corner of 86th and Michigan. Now, with that being said, that's the time frame that we located, and IMPD and the Indiana State Trooper that received that property, that's the time that they became involved. While it's difficult to say this is the time frame that they could have happened, we simply don't know how long the vehicle was sitting there. We simply do not know how long the property was laying there near the roadway. So for us, we can tell you when we found it, but anything between the disappearance of March 15th through today, anybody having seen anything or seen the black 2018 Nissan Altima, that would be the information we're looking for. So we try to guide it as best as we can, but we simply don't know what kind of timeline we're looking at that these items are actually there. Yes, sir.
There's a lot of mystery around this, and like from talking with the family, Nigel's a very responsible person. So is there just a random person who maybe have taken her? Do you think that the person that may be involved, that she may have known them? Should people in the community be, aware of someone maybe potentially taking, women or anything like that?
For us, it's about not locking into a single theory. So we have to consider that as a possibility in our investigation. We can't rule out a single theory at this point. So just as fast as we don't want to lock into a theory, we want to be responsible to know, let's see where the evidence takes us. And so that is a possibility. Do we have information to suggest that there is somebody in our community or near our community that is engaging in abductions of women? We have no specific information to guide us to that direction. But again, we don't want to chase that information and box ourselves in investigatively speaking.
Is there anybody that you tried to talk to that refused to talk to you? Do you have a person of interest in this case at all?
Everybody that we have approached has cooperated. from friends, family, associates, neighbors. We have not had anybody look at our investigators and say, I don't want to cooperate, or I do not want to give a statement. And so part of that investigative process starts close to home. The children that were involved were actually interviewed by forensic interviewers with a world-class organization called Susie's Place, Child Advocacy Center here in Avon. They specialize in facilitating neutral, child-friendly environments to conduct those interviews, and to do that with great integrity that does not re-victimize a child if they had information. And so while I can't speak to the content of those interviews, I would tell you that the investigative process did include even speaking to children. Everybody has been cooperative in our investigation to this point.
So have you been able to identify a person of interest or any suspects yet?
We're not willing to take a position right now of a person of interest or suspects at all. At this point, we can't rule anybody out of that perspective, but in the absence of information to lead us to Naja, we're just simply not in a position to make that declaration on our investigation.
So are you guys able to provide any new information today, other than obviously we knew when we found the vehicle and the items, but any new information that might help in this investigation?
So the last development that we had was having located the vehicle itself. That vehicle search warrant was completed earlier this week after we had located that. Investigators are following up with some information that derives from inside of that vehicle. Our goal today was to make sure that there was ultra strong communication about where we are at today, having an opportunity to hear from the family today, and establish the fact that we still need cooperation and help from the public today.
So are you still waiting on information from cell phones, anything that you've gotten a search warrant for? Are you still in a wait mode?
That's correct. So part of the investigative process, just as our society has changed and social media changes how we communicate on our daily basis as law enforcement, we all experience that on our personal and private lives. So we have sent off for a number of search warrants. The stark reality is that some organizations move more efficiently than others, and as we move forward, we are encountering some delays from receiving electronic data that could help us. It's important to understand that Indiana State Police has a team that specializes in the analysis of this. So beyond the trooper who had recovered the property on I-65, beyond the aviation team that helped conduct now 2 aerial searches of that, the Indiana State Police is also assisting us in the process of expediting those returns to get that data and to examine some devices that we've recovered during our investigation. So we're trying everything we can to employ that, utilizing the resources from Indiana State Police. The FBI has offered their assistance in the investigation, and we're keeping them updated as we move forward, and they've offered any resource that they have unlimited time and access to.
Is her cell phone still missing?
Her phone has not been located at this time, and so as we pay attention to what the evidence can show us, electronic evidence-wise, we're obviously looking for that device as well.
What kind of electronic evidence would you be talking about other than a cell phone? Could you elaborate?
Well, I'm sure there's probably a lot of people in this room that have a lot of devices. We talk about tablets, we talk about cell phones, we talk about computers. Technology comes in a lot of different forms and fashions, and so we're going to make sure we take a look at all of that.
Okay, so we can't specifically say what type of electronic you've been searching?
No, not at this time.
And then with what the family's been saying about not very involved in her community, very responsible, would you say that a disappearance like this, in this nature, and with this evidence that you found, is suspicious?
Absolutely. I think anyone that leaves their family for an extended period of time, we would call that suspicious. I think that when you pay attention to a mother who is not with her children, she had 3 foster children and 2 biological children, those children miss their mother. For a mother to not know where their children are at, and for a children to not know where their mother's at, is not only heartbreaking, it certainly is suspicious. So yeah, I would say that would be a good characterization.
And one more time, are you able to say if you think someone else is involved in this?
Well, at this point, we just simply don't know that. All right. So I mean, we have an understanding that we could have anything from a medical incident to foul play as a possibility. We're convinced, though, that somebody has seen something, and we're asking them to now say something. And so for us, again, just getting away from the concept of locking in on that one theory, we're convinced that someone has information that can help our investigators.
You mentioned this case as suspicious. How else would you describe this case? She almost is like she vanished. How would you describe that as a case with the Avon Police Department? Have you come across a case like this before, and how would you characterize it?
Well, we have cases very frequently when it comes to somebody being missing. Our department is smaller. Our resources are maybe not what they are for some larger agencies. But when you have such a relationship with Indiana State Police and with the FBI, those resources come out of the woodwork and are made available to us immediately. This isn't our first missing person case that we've had. A lot of the investigative techniques that are employed on other cases that happen more regularly are still applied to this investigation. So when we're talking about search warrants, we're talking about interviewing people, we're talking about aerial searches, ground searches, communicating with people about videos, interviewing family members and interviewing friends and onlookers. That happens every day here, and every agency across this nation likely deals with those scenarios. And so, the mechanics of an investigation are simply no different in terms of what we do, but having partners with the Indiana State Police and the FBI and the Hendricks County Sheriff's Department, who again helped us on the search of that vehicle, we're not reaching out to anybody who's not helping us at all. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer the best I can. Okay. So I appreciate you guys being here today. If we have any additional updates, we'll certainly send those out through press release. We'll make sure everyone is aware of that. We'll give you plenty of time to kind of assemble if we need to do another press conference. But again, we just ask that you respect the privacy of the family, understanding that what they're going through, and we'll be happy to communicate any of our findings once we've communicated with the family. So thank you very much for your time.